Hello. Hello, Mary. I'm going to bring you up on screen. Good morning. I had to make sure I forgot what time zone you're in, but it is still morning for you, right?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. Um, I'm so glad to have you here today. We're going to be talking about some awesome mindset stuff around eating and food. And I just wanted to share a little bit about why I'm doing this. I keep running into moms and dads, parents who are struggling with mealtime because their kids are picky eaters or they feel like there's a lot of resistance around mealtime. And I think that happens in a lot of households. And learning how to frame that conversation and kind of identify what's going on is really important in it. And I feel like a lot of parents get stuck in that and they can't even move on in their own health journeys because it becomes such a big uh, obstacle. So I'm hoping to have lots of guest speakers and just talk about this so parents can feel equipped to move forward for their kids' legacy and their own legacy and then and creating a better experience down the road for meal times. So I'm super excited to have Mary here. She is a parenting coach who helps parents parent with joy and confidence and helping moms say goodbye to that mom guilt. So Mary, I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you.
We talked a few weeks ago, and I'm curious, like, what you've noticed since our conversation about that finish your plate mindset we talked about.
It's so funny. I was gonna say this at the end, but I'll say it now. Um, we had that conversation, and it's like magically my kid has become more open to foods. like, like I didn't do anything different at all. It was just like all of a sudden, yeah, sure, I'll try that. So I guess as I talk and as I say these things and all the speakers, right, just trust the process because
Mm,
it wasn't magic. It just feels that way. But really, it was a consistent value that I put into our family and that we worked on. It was working on myself, it was working with my husband, um,
yeah,
and making sure that everything we're going to talk about today we have done. So
yeah,
it just putting that out there, just trust the process.
yeah. I like that point you bring up. Like, it took some work, like some intentional conversations with your mindset around and that for him to even be able to be like, I'm eating all this stuff. Like that's a part of the journey. Like you didn't just get there randomly. Like there's some intentions behind that.
So, just to give everyone a little bit of background about me, I am a parenting coach and I am all about trying to help you find that confidence and that joy. But I'm really about helping parents break those past cycles,
Mm,
right? The ones that we grew up with. My clients come from very traditional backgrounds, my way, the highway. You better do what I say the first time. You better do it with a
mm,
good attitude. The eat everything on your plate mentality, right? There are
yeah.
starving kids in Africa. How dare you complain about what's on your plate? So I know I've been there.
Mm,
I have grown up with that. I have developed eating disorders from it.
mm,
And I have worked on myself from that. And now I work with other clients in a general sense, not necessarily around food, more for routines and things when it comes to
yeah.
food. But really just breaking those traditional parenting myths and making them miserable, right? Like it's miserable to constantly be angry at your kids. It's
It sure is.
miserable. Food is supposed to be for joy and for
Mm,
community. That has always been what sharing a meal has been. But when we are constantly angry at our kids, and it's stressful and
yeah.
it's no longer joyful.
Yeah.
And so I really am hoping that this talk and all the other talks help make it that way again.
Mm,
So just a little bit, I told you a little bit about how I grew up, but honestly, um, my journey kind of started with my parents. They used to have the eat everything on your plate mentality until they made me eat macaroni salad after I told them I didn't like it and I threw it all up.
mm.
So they learned real quick.
Yeah. Well,
Probably
like I have a story like that. I know my husband does too. His is
really.
dramatic. Yeah. Like if you're watching right now, watching later, like raise your hand if you've got a story like that. I'm like, you're gonna finish that. And I mean, like me, I fell asleep in the soup. Steph decided to run away from home. Like
I
we
definitely was planning on it.
like that creates a lot of tension. So if you've experienced that, I'd love to hear like from you guys watching like what
And
that
even the like forcing to sit at the table while everybody
mm,
else goes and watches TV because
mm,
you're not hungry or you don't like what's in front of you. And so you're willing to not eat, but you got to sit there and
mm,
stare at your plate until it's finished. My parents instituted a 1 bite rule, which I'm not completely against, but also I don't, I feel like that's an age appropriate, like it needs to be at a certain age.
totally.
If you try to force my child to eat something, he will throw up, he will spit it out and like literally wipe off his tongue. Um, and literally, like, we have, because, you know, we all have those triggers. We all have those moments where things get away from us. And so
Mm,
we have been there. But it just made me realize more like, nope, this is not our value. And I'm not going to make food this battle. Food should
mm,
not be a battle because it creates such issues later on in life.
totally.
So I also, this will go into something I'll talk about later, but like I learned how to hide food really
Mm,
well to the point where you only could tell when half of the chocolates were gone. And then my parents would try to do interventions with me. Instead of figuring out what was going on, instead of trying to find the root cause, it was just you shouldn't do that. Those chocolates
mm,
aren't for you. You're too fat. You don't need chocolates. But they still would keep it in the house and
yeah.
still tell me I couldn't eat it, but they
Yeah.
could. None of
Yeah.
these things work, right?
Mm.
So
The
there's
missing, yeah, missing that conversation and that understanding and the working together to solve a problem. That was missing for you.
yes, exactly. And just really understanding that I am my own person.
Mm,
I have my own needs. I have my own likes and dislikes. And just because I'm a kid doesn't mean they're not valuable, doesn't mean they're not right, right? We, as an adult, if I tell you I don't like pickles, you're not going to sit there and force me to eat a pickle. But if I'm a child, how many times have we forced our children to eat something that they say they don't like, right? I'm not saying don't expose them. That's a
yeah.
whole different, but forcing people to eat things is very much um, an adult to child mentality. And
Mm,
we need to get rid of that if we want our kids to respect us. We need to respect them.
mm,
And that, honestly, that starts with little things like this. So when I became a parent, I knew I didn't want to create the same food issues, the same communication issues, the same
mm,
relationship issues, conflict, all of the things that I realized that my husband and I had. I looked at him one day and I was like, haha, we can't do this. Like, we need all the things that we thought we were going to do because we completely planned on spanking our kids like we were. Even as a teacher, I grew up in the South, or I didn't grow up. I started teaching in the South, and everyone was like, huh, if they would just spank their kids, they wouldn't be little heathens in my classroom. And
mm,
so we firmly believed in this.
yeah.
And then he was 10 months old, and we kept saying no. And then my husband told me to hit his hand, and something in me was just like, nope, 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 nope.
Doesn't feel right. Yeah.
No, thank you. Um, and that started me on my journey, but it really started making me listen to my instincts. So, first thing I always say is separate your fear from your intuition and then listen to your intuition. What is your intuition telling you to do? Follow
Mm,
that. It may not be the right response forever, but it will be the right response for right now.
there you go. Yeah.
Always trust that intuition.
Mm,
So yeah, we decided we needed to switch things up and we started looking at how we could do that, right? And first thing is to recognize the old habits within yourself. What habits do you have? I was still hiding food. I was 32 years old, married to a husband who could care less what I ate, who would buy me the dang things, and I was still trying to hide food
Mm.
because I had grown up so fearful of the
Yeah.
judgment that I felt I needed to eat the thing secretly and then throw away the wrapper and then like hide the rest of the trash on top of the wrapper.
Mm.
That is why this conversation is so important. You do not want your kids to be 32 years old feeling like they have to hide the little treat they just gave themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to set in motion some better habits and some better awareness
Yes.
to build them up and teach them that. Wow, Mary, that's I didn't know that about you. That's a lot to handle head on.
Yes. I would hide it in the freezer. I mean, I don't really do it now, except, sometimes we don't want our kids to know we're eating something simply because we don't want to share. I will say I
Right.
do that.
That's different though.
Sometimes I want to do things by myself.
Yeah.
But in general, if I have something, he's more than welcome to it as well. Because if it's
Mm.
okay for me to eat, it should also be okay for him to eat. If it's not okay
Mm.
for him to eat, then it's probably not okay for me to eat.
Yeah.
I really hope that people understand like double standards don't work.
Hmm.
The whole idea of do as I say, not as I do has ended.
Yeah. I think that kids are watching you, whether you are aware of it or not. They hear and see you, and
Yes.
they know the habits you have, and whatever, whether it's a good habit or a bad habit, that's going to become their habit. Just like the finish your plate mentality, like that carries on. And so, whatever you're doing now in your house as your routine, that is their habits that they're going to walk away with. So, if you're not intentional about changing that mindset and that thing, that is what you are handing your kids.
And so you really need to have a talk with your partner. What is important? What values do we want our kids to grow up with around food and everything, right? So
Totally.
for us, we have realized that the eating everything on your plate doesn't work because I don't know his body. Some days he's starving, and other days he might eat one meal. And that is okay. That's another thing people don't realize is that for young children, one meal is sometimes all that they need. And that is okay.
There,
That's not
it's
an
so
everyday thing, but
yeah, it's normal for hunger to ebb and flow, and it's really important to be like, okay, you're full, you're full. Okay, like you're hungry. Let's get some food. Let's respond to that so that they can be able to listen to what's going on in their bodies and be
exactly.
able to have that autonomy. Yeah.
And so we talk about that. We're like, okay, do you feel satisfied or are you still hungry? We don't say, are you full? Because I don't want him to learn to be full.
Hmm. Oh, good, good.
Right. So we say
Yeah.
satisfied. Because my husband and I would have these conversations and we realize like, oh no, actually I'm too full now. Or nope, I'm just satisfied. And then we realize, no, we want our kid to realize this too. We don't want him to eat until he's full
Yeah.
and he's like feeling like he's gonna roll out of the room. We want him to eat until he is satisfied and to realize when that point is.
I love that. I love that distinction that you taught him, and really intentional. Like this is what satisfaction feels like as far as fullness, like that
Yep.
that scale of where you're full and oh yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I
And we
love
let
that.
him decide that.
Mhm.
We also got rid of this whole the eating, everyone eating together around the table.
Okay.
It's not a bad thing, but it doesn't work for every family. And
Mm.
that's why I say, you got to figure out what your own family's values are. Mine are not going to be the same as yours. For you, eating around the table may be the best part of your night. For us, it was a logistical nightmare. And for
Mm.
many families I talk to, it's a logistical nightmare because the kids are hungry around 5, and then dad gets home around 6:30, and then it's just a mad dash to bath and bed and all the things. And so it was putting so much pressure on the family that everybody was miserable.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
traditional dinner time didn't make sense. Do you guys find another time where you do get to sit and enjoy a meal together or
Yeah.
something
So
that works?
we are a bit of a foodie, but we also don't necessarily like to do all the cooking and cleaning. So we
Okay.
do eat regularly out when the budget can make it work. And so we will love to go and explore new foods together. My kid surprised us, and he's an on again, off again sushi lover. So, like I said, you just kind of gotta go with the flow. But when you get it, and you take hold of it.
Totally.
So we will do that often. We'll go and eat out at restaurants and things, and then we have other intentional times together. So food is great, and like I said, food was meant like sitting around the table. That was supposed to be the joyful thing. But if it's
Mm.
not working for your family right now, then don't do it. And we
Yeah.
live in an RV. We took out our table.
Yeah.
Look
Well,
at
that's a logistical nightmare in addition to the
yes.
schedule. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I think that's the key is like finding what values you have right now and where you want to be and like aligning with
Oh, I
what
am
steps.
so sorry.
It's okay. Like aligning up what steps you want to take to get there in order to um, make a good habits for your family. And I'm sure Mary will be right back. I know that they travel often, and sometimes it's hard to get a good spot to do these videos in. So I'm so appreciative that you were able to make some time today. I know that your location varies,
Yes,
so I
and
appreciate
they
your
just
flexibility.
decided. I got them. I was like, just give me like 5-10 minutes, so I'll
Yeah.
finish it real fast. So they
Okay.
wash their camper. They were supposed to do it a few days ago, so I didn't realize they were doing it today.
Yeah. That's important. Yeah.
All right, so moving on, we talked about the values and knowing that that might change over time, and
Mhm.
then we touched on it, but really just like learning to listen to your kid and accept where they are right now.
Mhm.
Your kid may not like 99% of the foods that you give them. That doesn't mean you just give in and give up forever. It just means that you accept where they are right now, and then slowly guide them and expose them to the new things.
Totally.
So
In a
I
loving, kind way.
yes, exactly. And you know what that might mean? You don't it so we put it on the plate. So like if we're out eating or whatever, or we're doing a family event, um, or if I'm making him something, I'll try to put a little bit of what we're eating on the plate. One green bean, a little
Yeah.
tiny piece of chicken. He
Mhm.
might freak out sometimes.
Mm.
And I try to be like, it's okay. It's just there. If you don't like it, you don't have to, that's fine.
Yeah.
For some kids, that is too much pressure and they get
Totally.
massive anxiety from
Mhm.
even that. So
Mhm.
sometimes it's just like having the plate with all of the green beans somewhere on the table far away from them.
Yes.
And then you slowly bring that closer over time, like over days, over multiple
Yeah.
meals.
Yeah.
Sometimes my kid wouldn't take a bite, but I could get him to take a lick.
Yeah. Totally. Like, can you touch it? Yes, you can touch it. That's awesome. I'm so
Exactly.
proud of you. When,
And just like you said, celebrating each
yeah.
stage of the
Mhm.
progression. Um, and so it's just realizing, like, you know what? Would I love if my kid would eat all the vegetables right now? Yes. I would love if he would eat all the vegetables. But some kids are super tasters. There's like an
Mm.
actual diagnosis
Yeah.
where you might taste something so much that it's too hard to eat it or
It
it's
just,
not complex enough. So that's
yeah.
why a lot of kids like bland foods.
Mhm.
Well, that's just two reasons. For example, I go and sometimes I need just bland
Mm.
because I can taste all the different variations in the food and sometimes just that's just too overstimulating for
Yeah.
me. And so when you learn to listen to your kids and accept that that's where they're at right now, you don't have to fight it. You just like, okay, we can work on that. That's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool for right now. We'll work on it later and we'll get there, right? Some kids like the chips. They were like, oh, my kids are so addicted to all these things. Honestly, I also would prefer to eat the crackers and the chips, not because I don't like things like blueberries and strawberries and green beans, but because you never know what you're going to get. I can put 5 blueberries out and they will taste 5 different ways. And that freaks kids out, right? That can be really disconcerting, especially if your kids are neurodiverse, if they have autism or ADHD.
Sensory processing, yeah.
Yeah, or sensory processing, exactly. So just being able to be like, okay, I can see your fears, and that's okay.
So, okay, yeah, that's what I want to ask you. So say like you put the green bean on your son's plate and he's like, I can't do it. How do you respond? What is your game face?
So if he freaks out, and again, this will depend on the kid, your relationship, where they're at that day, if they've had a really hard day or wherever they're at. But typically I'd be like, ooh, wow, that green bean's freaking you out, huh? How about we just leave it right here? You don't have to eat it, but maybe if you decide you want to later, then it's there. If they're still freaking out that it's like touching something, then maybe I'll put it on a napkin beside their plate, right? And slightly move it away. And then I'm going to realize for next time, maybe I don't put it on the plate. Maybe I put the bowl of the green beans somewhere nearby so he can still see that they exist.
Yeah.
Right. And then slowly get it back to the plate.
I love that. So you're acknowledging your kid's perspective. You're like, okay, this is a real feeling. This is a real emotion that you have. I hear you. And, I'm right alongside you and it's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because I think that's the total opposite of the finish your plate mentality. It's like, okay, this is like real. We're not gonna make you eat all the green beans. It's okay if you're just next to it. Like, let's just work on being next to the green bean. Like,
exactly.
And then building from there, knowing that one day he might just love them.
Exactly. And sometimes too many food or too many different kinds of food or too much food is so overwhelming that you will get a meltdown.
Yeah.
Even if they love the food, even if they absolutely love the type of food that you give them, if it's too much, they'll have a meltdown.
Yeah. Being aware of what how your child responds and talking through it if they're old enough to figure out those different nuances. Yeah.
So that is really what I want to say to people is just trust your intuition, but trust your kids.
Yeah.
And then work towards your goals. You don't have to be there right now.
I love that. Let's say okay, one more question because
I want to be respectful of the people wanting to clean too.
Okay. One more question and then we'll talk about how people can get in touch with you. Okay. Let's say the child has a massive tantrum, can't even sit at the table at this time, because I think this is the one of the most important things. It's how do you respond if they can't even participate in that at that moment? Take a break. Okay.
Take a break. I literally had a client. I think the night before we chatted, I had a client in a similar situation where her daughter, she had gotten the agreement with her daughter that they were going to experiment with meatloaf, and she would take a little bit of the meatloaf, but then she also accidentally put potatoes on the plate, which was also a newer food. And she's one that has massive anxiety around new foods. So she freaked out. And so she let her just take a break in her bedroom. And it wasn't like a punishment, go to your bedroom. No, it was just all right, we need some time to calm down together. And she went and talked with her and came back and she ate it. But she just needed a break. She needed some time to process and then to be prepared to eat.
Yeah. Take a break, check in on the emotions, and come back to it when it makes sense.
Exactly.
Totally. Awesome. Mary, this was so good. Even I learned a few things, just staying calm in the parenting moment. If people want to connect more with you and kind of see more about what you do, where can they find you?
So the best place to find me is my free Facebook group, Mamas of Littles Parenting with Joy and Confidence.
Okay.
And I have videos in there. I have weekly videos. I go live weekly unless I'm sick. Um, or we're in a place that's pretty awesome with no internet service. And,
Yeah.
and that's you'll find all the information that I talk about there. As you can ask questions in there. You can share your wins in there. It's a pretty nice little group.
Yeah, I've been a member for a few weeks now, and I've loved the different snippets you've shared, and I appreciate being in there just as a parent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
All
thank
right.
you everyone for listening. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments, and I will get back to them later.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time and wisdom, Mary. It's been great talking.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.